I now call upon Trevor Brown, my good friend and student council president, to reflect upon our time as a class here at St. John's.
When I was in middle school, I shaved my left eyebrow off. Let me elaborate. In middle school, I happened to have a significantly small head and significantly larger eyebrows. And with that said, I became another victim of middle school bullying. After one too many, is that a caterpillar on your face? Or is that one big eyebrow? I went home and took a razor to my left eyebrow. The next day in school, get this, I was made fun of for not having an eyebrow. How could I win? Meanwhile, at St. John's, I cannot go 5 minutes without a smile in AP Psych, without Mr. Gooden saying to me, "Hey brother, is everything okay?" I'd love to see his reaction if I walked into class missing an eyebrow. There's deeper meaning, I promise. At my old school, it was rare for the majority to stop what they were doing to make sure you were okay if they saw someone missing an eyebrow. However, I personally know if I approached any student in the class of 2015 telling them I needed to talk, he would stop and listen. I experienced a sense of this compassion during the very first liturgy of my freshman year here. Let me set the scene for you. There I was, a nice Jewish boy, sitting in the raging hot gym, praying I would not make eye contact with Dean Richards. So then we reached the point of the distribution of the Eucharist. And you should know, usually attending service at Temple, we have a snack after the service. That's just kind of how it works. So, I see the teachers bringing out the bread and the wine, and I think to myself, fantastic, I'm starving. I could use some crackers and wine. Little did I know, as I waited in line, I started to get the feeling that this meal was not meant for me when I saw the cross within the communion wafer. A boy behind me, a friend since preschool, realized my confusion and quietly helped me out of this awkward situation. This concept of compassion encourages our seeing that someone is not having a great day, dropping what you were doing, making sure everything is all right, and giving them a big hug and a high five. An overwhelming sense of that type of compassion thrives on this campus. During the senior retreat, Oscar Garcia said to me, "Here's the way I see it, Trevor. If someone decides to stab you in the back, there's no reason to stoop to their level. What we need to do is forgive them and pray for them, because that's all we can do. If we truly want to create world peace and all of that, then we need to start by forgiving one another first." Then he said, "I'm going to change the world one person at a time. And you know what, Oscar? With that attitude, you will." Since I had Mr. Magnuson in class, he has never ceased to amaze me with his sense of compassion, this unconditional sense of forgiveness. After the threat of violence last year at school, I was having a hard time understanding a threat toward a place that I cherish. Because as you know, I love the prep. So I could not comprehend someone's desire to destroy this institution that has given me so much joy. So I approached Mr. Magnuson, and as always, I was disturbed in thinking. He said to me, "We need to pray for whoever made the threat, their family, and those who surround that person. Imagine what they must be going through. So today, we will forgive them and hope that they may find a light toward happiness. That's the only option that we have, Trevor." And I could not believe the words coming out of his mouth. Because during those clear plastic bag weeks, I heard a lot of, "Screw this, I'm sick of carrying around my iPad in a trash bag." But amidst the conversation, I heard a small voice with a different perspective. You need to get over your own insignificant problems and realize what someone else must be going through to make this drastic call for help. For those of you who are thinking, all right, Trev, compassion's nice and all, but does it really speak to who we are as a class? Let me ask you, how many of you have ever given a high five, handshake, or hug to one of your friends? My point exactly. I see compassion in this ideology that, as Mr. Nance likes to remind us, we lift our brothers up. I find it fantastic that we exhibit this unconditional compassion. Our automatic response makes this concept even more powerful. The number of high fives, handshakes, and hugs given throughout every day makes me realize more and more why I am so often sick of the spreading of germs, but constantly smiling. And it is through our natural response that only adds power and meaning to the argument that we, our class, exhibit this behavior like it's nobody's business. Throughout these 4 years, my parents have helped me realize the camaraderie found not only within our class, but also within the current prep student community. When Pete Frates created the Ice Bucket Challenge, I felt as if we were friends, by the pure fact that we both attended St. John's. And without hesitation, I felt as though I had to support him. Because the suffering of a fellow Eagle calls us to action. That's just how it works here. During the weeks after Brandon and Sean were first injured, I had more than 6 underclassmen coming up to me each day, asking me, where would I find something to sign for Brandon and Sean? And I would respond, oh, I didn't know that you knew them. And the overwhelming majority of responses consisted along the lines of, well, I don't, but he goes to the prep and so do I. So why wouldn't I care? Now, this is where it gets interesting, in the argument of nature versus nurture. The lifelong debate as to whether it is our environment that plays the biggest impact on our development, or whether it is our ancestry that most affects this growth. But what we very rarely see is the combining of these two factors. When nurturing becomes our nature, and when nature becomes our nurturing. The summer before our senior year at PLI, I witnessed something amazing. I watched boys bravely stand in front of their classmates and become so vulnerable that I realized I was not the only one holding back tears that night. And they said, we need to treat every woman with the same respect as though they were our mother. Enough with the Holocaust jokes. They will never be funny. What do we mean when we say something is gay? Do we mean to say it's stupid? Do we realize how hurtful that can be? The days following, I watched new friendships develop while we, as one class, began the first steps to making sure no one was to ever feel alone again. That day marks the day where boys emerged into men, and the walls we had built ourselves to act like everything was okay were shattered. We learned, despite any preconceived ideas, we do have problems, and not everyone is always doing well. However, we did not simply acknowledge their struggle and move on. We stopped what we were doing and took the first steps to work it out. Our legacy, what St. John's Prep has instilled in us, is something that will influence the class of 2015 and all those who we encounter. And with that, St. John's has created a domino effect within our world, where nature and nurture coexist. And as all great rabbis do, I'll leave you with a story. Rabbi Haim often stressed the importance of respect for one's fellow man and woman, and he liked to tell this story. He said, I once climbed to the heavens. I first went to hell, and the sight was horrifying. Row after row of tables with food, yet the people seated around the tables were pale and moaning with hunger. As I came closer, I saw every person held a full spoon, but their arms were nailed to wood, so they could not bend their elbows to consume their held food. They held food so near, but could not consume it. Next, I went to visit heaven. I was surprised to see the same setting I had witnessed in hell, row after row of tables with food. However, the people seated around these tables were smiling, and they were talking, and they were happy, obviously satisfied from a previous meal. As I came closer, I was amazed to discover that here too, each person had their arms nailed to wood that prevented them from bending their elbows. How then did they eat? As I watched, a man picked up his spoon and dug it into the dish before him. Then he stretched across the table and fed the person across from him. The recipient of this kindness thanked him and returned the favor by leaning back across the table to feed his benefactor. I suddenly understood. Heaven and hell offer the same opportunities and conditions, but the huge difference lies in the way people treat each other. This notion of compassion can change people's lives. And I implore each one of you to never forget that you do hold the power to discover your own happiness. And you must never forget to express the compassion I have witnessed through the past 4 years, through every hug, handshake, high five, fist bump that I have ever received. And for that, I am forever grateful. No one at the prep should have to shave off an eyebrow because of being bullied for physical appearance. Fortunately for me, my eyebrows grew back and are, as always, large in charge. We must be brothers, not bullies, who have witnessed and have learned that by reaching across the table to offer a kind word of encouragement, acceptance, and humor defines the class of 2015. I love you all, and for that I am so thankful. Thank you.